She's not moving. I'm looking at her right now. She's face down. A dark backyard at dawn. A woman's body in a white onesie sprawled face down on the grass. A smashed fence panel. A second woman pacing with a phone pressed to her ear. Tamla Horsford was a 40-year-old mother of 5. Loved by friends. Devoted to her kids. On the night of November 3, 2018, she went to a football mom's sleepover in Cumming, Georgia. 10 women and 1 man gathered at a friend's home to drink, watch football, and unwind. The next morning, Tamla was dead. The official story? She fell from a second-story balcony. Alone. Drunk. The autopsy said accident. The sheriff's office agreed. Case closed in under 2 weeks. But her family didn't buy it. Neither did the internet. Here's where things start to unravel. Tamla's body was found in the backyard. Face down. Not on her side. Not sprawled. Face down. Arms flat. Legs straight. It's not how people land when they fall. Her injuries? Multiple blunt force traumas. A laceration on her heart. A dislocated wrist. Cuts to her face. A missing clump of hair. And yet, no signs of a struggle? And the balcony? It wasn't high enough for a fall to be lethal. About 14 feet. The ground was soft. Damp from the night air. No blood. No trail. No broken wood or railing. But here's the kicker, her wrist was broken in 2 places. Both defensive injuries. As if she tried to catch herself, or fend someone off. Let's rewind. What really happened that night? 10 women. 1 man, Jose Barrera, the homeowner's boyfriend and, get this, a county court officer. They say Tamla was drinking. Tequila. Wine. A shot or 2. They say she smoked a little weed. Watched football. Played cards. Laughed. But somewhere after 1:30 a.m., things go dark. Literally. The house had security cameras. Motion sensors. But the footage between 1:47 and 8:45 a.m.? Conveniently gone. Guest statements? Inconsistent. One says Tamla went to bed at 1:30 a.m. Another says she was still awake at 2. One says she was dancing. Another says she was quiet and stumbling. Jose claims he found her around 7:30 a.m. through the kitchen window. But the 911 call wasn't made until 8:59 a.m. What were they doing for 90 minutes? And then this. On the 911 call, Jose casually mentions he moved Tamla's leg. Tells the operator he checked for signs of life. But police photos show a pristine body, no disturbed ground, no shifted limbs. How is that possible? And one more thing. Later, Jose would be fired. Not for the incident itself, but for accessing the case file 9 times without authorization. He wasn't just curious. He was monitoring it. But that's not the story her family believes. This is where the story really begins. Tamla Horsford walked into a party in Forsyth County, a town with a history of racial tension. She was the only black woman in a room full of white guests. By morning, she was dead. And the only people left to tell the story are the ones who claim nothing happened at all. But we're not done. Because in part 2, a twist unearths a chilling connection. Evidence that suggests Tamla might not have been alone on that balcony. And someone in that house might have had something to hide. Before we dive deeper into the mystery, we need to know who she was. Tamla Horsford. 40 years old. Born in St. Vincent. Caribbean roots. A wife. A mother of 5. But more than that, she was magnetic. Loud laugh. Big hugs. No apologies. Her husband, Leander, called her his firecracker. She was the heart of our house. The anchor. If she was there, you felt it. If she wasn't, you knew it. Tamla twirling on the lawn. Kids laughing. A little voice yells Mama. She had a job at a youth detention center. Hard work. Draining work. But she made time for every game, every recital. That Friday? She was excited. A rare night off. Love you, babe. Be home tomorrow. Kiss the kids. A simple message. Nothing dramatic. Just a promise she never got to keep. Forsyth County, Georgia. A name with a past. 100 years ago, white mobs drove every black family out. The county stayed over 90% white for most of the 20th century. It's 2018, but that kind of history doesn't vanish. And Tamla knew it. She told me, she almost didn't want to go. Said it felt off. Like she'd be the only one. And she was. There were 10 white women at the party. 1 man. Tamla was the only black woman in the house. She didn't make a scene. Didn't call attention to it. She smiled. Brought a bottle of tequila. Played games. But context matters. Power dynamics. Racial tension. Social codes. They don't always scream. Sometimes, they hum beneath the surface. She knew how to move through any space. But that doesn't mean the space welcomed her. Football mom's night. Medium skin tone dancer wine glass. Social media painted it like any other suburban gathering. Wine. Cards Against Humanity. Pajamas. Guests were scattered across couches and guest beds. The homeowner, Jean Mayers, hosted plenty of times before. People laughed. Hosted. Drank. But according to statements, Tamla was the last one awake. I went to bed around 1:30. Tamla was still watching TV. Another guest claimed Tamla was dancing. One said she was too drunk. Another said she seemed perfectly fine. So which is it? Too intoxicated to stand, or full of life, dancing? The last image of Tamla that night? A blurry photo taken around 1:47 a.m. She's in her white onesie with paw prints. Smiling. That smile would be the last time anyone saw her alive. Because somewhere between 1:47 a.m. and 8:59 a.m., Tamla Horsford died. And no one claimed to see or hear a thing. But now, things start falling apart. Because after part 1 aired, new information came to light. Something the police missed. Something a family friend discovered on their own. A single photo. Hidden deep in a phone backup. Timestamped 1:49 a.m. It shows the back porch. Tamla is not in it. But a second drink appears on the table. There were only supposed to be 2 people still awake. Tamla, and one guest who already claimed to be in bed. So who's that extra glass for? And more importantly, who took the photo? A text message surfaces. One guest texting another, "We all need to stick to the same story." Another message reads, "It was an accident. Don't talk to the media." Why would you need a story, if there's nothing to hide? And then, the twist. An anonymous tip. Left in a voicemail to the Horsford family's lawyer. A woman's voice. Whispering. Clearly terrified. They told her to go outside. They didn't think she'd fall. They just wanted her to leave. She was pushed. Now the whole thing looks different. Maybe Tamla didn't fall while smoking. Maybe she didn't fall alone. Maybe someone lured her outside. Maybe someone followed. What if there was a confrontation? What if something went very, very wrong? And what if the silence of that house was planned? Tamla was buried before a second autopsy could be performed. Vital evidence? Lost. The first report was rushed. No rape kit. No fingernail scrapings. And the lead investigator? Friends with Jose Barrera. This isn't just a question of what happened on that balcony. It's a question of why no one is talking. And who made sure they didn't. We just thought she went to bed. She was already gone when I looked. I didn't hear anything. One house. 10 witnesses. No answers. Or maybe too many. All contradicting. We confront the ones who were there. A secret recording. A broken timeline. And a new autopsy report that changes everything. You won't believe what the second body report reveals. Stay with us. This story isn't over. They said it was an accident. A drunken fall from a balcony. But now, the story starts to crack. Tamla Horsford. Found face down. In the grass. 14 feet below a wooden balcony. The official autopsy comes in. Multiple blunt force injuries. A dislocated wrist. Fractures to the neck. Facial trauma. Cuts and abrasions. They said she fell. But her injuries? Didn't fall in line. Her face had deep lacerations, both sides. Not just bruised. Torn. Her nose? Broken. Lips? Split. Teeth? Loosened. If she fell straight down, she should have landed on her feet or hands. But those areas had minimal damage. Her wrist was dislocated, but oddly so. The angle suggested twisting, not impact. More questions than answers. And then? Her legs. Untouched. No breaks. No bruises. Tamla didn't brace herself. She didn't catch herself. Either she was unconscious, or already gone. Her family sees the report. And they don't buy it. They demand a second autopsy. Privately funded. Independent. Unfiltered. The second autopsy comes back weeks later. And it's devastating. The independent pathologist reviews everything. Finds that Tamla had abrasions on her forearms. Defensive. Fresh. Like she tried to fight something off. There's bruising along her back. Areas not exposed in a forward fall. Someone grabbed her? Shoved her? These aren't typical of a fall. Especially not from a second-story deck. And then the heart. A laceration on the right atrium. Rare. Serious. Unlikely from a simple fall. That kind of tear usually happens in car crashes. Not backyard accidents. The medical evidence begins to shift the narrative. She didn't fall. She was pushed. Or worse, already dead before she hit the ground. Tamla had a .238 blood alcohol level. That's high. Extremely. But her friends said she was normal that night. Laughing. Coherent. Dancing. No slurred words. No stumbling. Something's off. Either she drank more after they stopped noticing, or the timeline's a lie. Then came the THC. The report shows inactive THC metabolites. That means the weed in her system wasn't recent. Could have been from days earlier. But it's used, again, to paint her as reckless. They were trying to make her look like she brought this on herself. She didn't. The second autopsy paints a darker picture. She was hurt before she fell. Maybe attacked. Maybe unconscious. So if the fall didn't kill her, who did? Then came the glitches in the investigation. Witnesses begin changing their statements. Subtle at first. One says Tamla went to bed around 1:30 a.m. Later says she was on the deck. Then says, I didn't actually see her. I just assumed. Assumed? For a woman who died hours later. Another witness originally told investigators they were asleep all night. Later mentions they woke up once, to use the bathroom. That's when they say they might have heard something. But they're not sure. Or maybe they're very sure, and just afraid to say. Then came the footage. There was a motion-activated security camera outside. Pointed toward the yard. But the night Tamla died? Deleted. Gone. Midnight to 8:30 a.m., erased. Just hours before her body is found, the footage vanishes. Investigators say it was overwritten. A system failure. A glitch. But tech experts say otherwise. You don't just lose footage from one specific time range. It takes action, or intention. Then there's Jose Barrera. The man who called 911. Said he found her. Said he was just helping. Weeks later, he's fired. Why? Because he accessed the case files, illegally. Court databases. Witness reports. Autopsy documents. What was he trying to find? Or hide? Then it gets uglier. One of the guests, social media uncovered messages. Racial slurs. Offensive jokes. Posts that showed bias. Hate. Credibility shattered. Motive? Maybe. And proof that not everyone in that house saw Tamla as a friend. The pieces no longer fit. The story is unraveling. And just when it seems like we've seen the worst, a neighbor steps forward. They weren't at the party. They lived 2 doors down. And they heard something. Around 2:30 in the morning. I heard a loud thud. Then a scream. A woman. Short. Cut off. Then nothing. They reported it. No one followed up. That scream lines up with the estimated time of death. But no one inside that house mentioned it. Because maybe, they didn't want to. Captured at 2:28 a.m. Not Tamla. Too tall. Too wide. There was someone else on that balcony. They weren't supposed to be there. They never admitted it. They were never questioned about it. And then, one more discovery. Tamla's phone. Found in her overnight bag. At the bottom, a voice memo. Time-stamped, 1:57 a.m. Just 30 minutes before she dies. She pressed record, and caught something. We don't know what yet. But we're about to find out. What started as a private tragedy, is now a national reckoning. 4 months, Tamla Horsford's name went unspoken. No headlines. No pressure. No justice. Then something changed. A single post went viral. Tamla's photo. A soft smile. A Falcons jersey. And one sentence. A black woman died at an all-white slumber party, and they called it an accident. The internet exploded. Twitter threads. TikTok explainers. Instagram infographics. Celebrities began speaking out. Activists demanded transparency. How do you fall off a balcony and end up with injuries to your back and face? How? Hashtags surged. Justice for Tamla. Say her name. Tamla Horsford. Black Lives Matter chapters across the US picked up the case. Digital petitions topped 1 million signatures. People were furious. Not just because she died, but because no one seemed to care until now. The story wasn't just about a woman who died. It was about a system that never planned to look for her killer. Then, a surprise development. The case was reopened. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation stepped in. But months passed. And then, silence. Reopened doesn't mean solved. And it sure doesn't mean justice. If she were white, we might have looked harder. Anonymous law enforcement officer. The truth no one wants to say. But everyone suspects. It's not that the system failed Tamla. It did exactly what it was built to do: minimize, dismiss, delay. She was a black woman in a white space. That made her invisible. That made her disposable. The guests at the party? Still free. Still silent. The DA? Still claims no foul play. Despite second autopsy results. Despite changed witness statements. Despite the deleted footage. Tamla was treated like a problem. Not a victim. Behind closed doors, prosecutors point to lack of evidence. But activists push back. What if the evidence was never properly gathered? Cases don't solve themselves. You have to want to know the truth. And maybe the truth was never the goal. Sometimes, the law isn't blind. Sometimes, it just looks away. To the world, she became a headline. But to her family, she was everything. She was the light in the room. That laugh, God, I miss that laugh. His voice cracks. I don't care about politics. I don't care about public pressure. I care about my sons asking why no one cared that their mom didn't come home. A stick figure woman in yellow. A sun above her head. He points. That's Mommy. Mommy was sunshine. She was a wife. A mother. A sister. A friend. She deserved answers. And she never got them. But then, something breaks open. A whistleblower. Someone inside the DA's office. They send a file. Inside, a list. Names. Phone records. A statement never released to the public. It came from one of the party guests. A message sent at 1:58 a.m., the same time as Tamla's voice memo. She's out here again. She won't go to sleep. She's gonna get herself hurt. But the official timeline claimed everyone was asleep. Why lie? Why cover that up? Unless someone knew she didn't fall. Tamla is in the background. Not smiling. She looks upset. Surrounded by 3 women. The house was full of people. But only Tamla ended up dead. And now, another voice memo surfaces. Recovered from a backup app on Tamla's phone. Never played before. I just want to go home. I'm not playing with your. Stop touching me. Then static. A loud thump. Silence. We've heard her final words. Now it's time to find out who she said them to. It began with a slumber party. It ends with a silence no one can justify. More than a year has passed. No arrests. No charges. No accountability. The final ruling? Accidental death. Despite public outrage. Despite expert reviews. Despite witness contradictions. They closed the case. Then reopened it. Then closed it again. Just like that. The second autopsy showed extensive injuries. Neck trauma. Abrasion clusters. A laceration on the heart. But still, no foul play, they said. That's not how someone falls. That's how someone is hurt. The sheriff's office issued a statement. They found no evidence of homicide. They stand by their conclusion. We investigated thoroughly. The facts speak for themselves. But whose facts? And whose voices never made it into that final report? We begged them to test DNA on the balcony railing. They never did. They lost her fingernail clippings. Her phone was locked. Her watch stopped at 1:57 a.m. And still, no one's accountable. The family pushes forward. They're demanding a federal investigation now. Hiring private forensic analysts. Holding rallies. Raising funds. Refusing to let her name vanish. Because the system isn't broken. It's just working exactly how it was meant to. Tamla Horsford didn't get justice. But she has a legacy. She reminded us what silence can hide. What privilege can protect. And how quickly a black woman's life can be explained away. Justice isn't just about courtrooms. It's about who we believe when the story gets messy. April 10, 1978 to November 4, 2018. She was a mother of 5. A wife. A friend. The life of every room she walked into. We know her name. Now we have to carry her story. If Tamla Horsford had been your sister, would this be enough? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story shocked you, like and subscribe to True Crime Series for more cases that expose the darkest corners of human nature.